Have you seen any of my photos and wonder how I process my work? Everyone, welcome back. I'm going to dive right in and tell you about my top 5 favorite features and tools in Photoshop. So I use Photoshop for all of my editing needs. I will on occasion use Lightroom on my phone, but most of my processing is predominantly within Photoshop. I'm going to give you my top 5 favorites because when looking at my process, these are the tools that I use most often for a majority of my photos. So the first tool that I want to show you is the Camera Raw plugin. I use this for processing all of the RAW files from my camera. I shoot solely in RAW. I don't shoot with JPEG or anything. So I need to process those RAW files with my computer. The Adobe Photoshop Camera Raw plugin is the perfect tool for that. With that, I can make adjustments to the RAW file when it gets loaded up in here to make adjustments to the temperature of the file, the exposure. You can rock these sliders back and forth to make adjustments. These are going to be your basic edits within Photoshop. So the Camera Raw plugin is going to be where I do all of my basic edits. Another thing that is included in this is sharpening. Very important. All RAW files do need a little bit of sharpening. So the default setting on that is usually a good place to start. Sometimes I'll roll it back a little bit or add a little bit to it just in case it's necessary. So the second tool that I'm going to show you is actually a tool within a tool. So also in the Camera Raw plugin, there's a little feature called Enhance. So what you do is you right click on the thumbnail within the Camera Raw plugin, and there's an option in here to enhance your photo. What does this do? So when you click on that, you'll get an option here. So it'll give you a few things that you can do. So there's an option in here for super resolution. So if you check this off, what this does is this actually increases the resolution of your photo to give you more pixels to work with, if you will. So I'm actually not going to click enhance. I've already done this. So this is very handy for when you want to really crop in on something. And I've used this with wildlife photos, shooting birds or, any object or subject that's going to be far away, because it gives me a little bit more ability to close in and crop. So the third tool I want to show you is adjustment layers. So I'll cover two things with adjustment layers because there's two kind of neat things about it. The first is the layer itself, and the second is actually masking within the layer. So within Photoshop, if you come down to the lower right hand side, you'll see the little circle that's kind of half white, half black. When you open that up, that'll give you several options for different adjustment layers that you can make within Photoshop. I use the hue and saturation a lot, sometimes exposure, and we'll make adjustments as I see fit. In this photo, I already have an adjustment layer selected. So you can see here that if I were to unselect this, the sand gets really orange. Actually, I'll zoom in on it a little bit. So you can see how orange this gets. It was really cool because it really was that orange, but this was almost oversaturated, too saturated for the ground. So to make it a little bit more natural in coloring is I'd actually reduce that saturation there to make it look like a beach, like a pebble beach. So how I do this is through the adjustment layer, and then you can create a mask with that adjustment layer, so that way you can only adjust portions of that. So the two ways that you can do this, or three ways actually that you could do this, is you could either paint on your mask with a paintbrush and create your mask that way. So if you want to, paint in some of this area here, so if you wanted to resaturate or desaturate some of these areas, you could do that with this. So I kind of bring some of that out. You can see the difference in it now. So you could either paint it on, you can select and mask, which is an option where you can actually paint in your mask and refine your mask as you need to. So you can see in red here where the mask is actually applied. And then finally, the last thing that you could do is color range, where you could actually select a portion of your photo with your eyedropper for the sampled colors to see what's going to get masked and not masked. So you have a couple of options with that. You could either sample the colors, you can set it for your highlights, You can set it for your midtones or for your shadows to create that mask. But that's how I use adjustment layers and those masks to help edit my photos. But this one definitely is one of my favorites because it is so powerful with the different things that you could do between the adjustments and masking. So the fourth tool that I wanted to show you guys is the burn and dodge tool within Photoshop. The nice thing is about the burn dodge tools, it allows you some accuracy when you want to apply it, but this is a destructive edit, so you are working on your base image on this, so be mindful of that. Like I said, this is something that does affect that base image. A little bit of history: the burn and dodge tool is actually something that comes from the days of processing film within darkroom. So it was how you would actually add or take away light from your photo paper when generating your image. So this is actually something that does come from the darkroom print days. So let me show you how that works. So I have the dodge tool selected here already, and what you do is you can come in and just paint your areas. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I'll zoom in. But as I kind of come over this, you can see that that's getting lighter. Obviously that's probably a little too bright, so we can get rid of that. But just to illustrate it, the burn tool, this is the tool that darkens your scene. So the dodge tool lightens your image, the burn tool darkens your image. So if we wanted to really put this back into the shadows in here, you can kind of see a little bit how it's affected, but we'll use this lighter area. So you can see how that gets darker with each pass. So you can really darken those areas of your image. This is really handy if you really want to help accentuate an area or de-accentuate. Is de-accentuate a word? Or, you know, take accent away from an area. So the dodge and burn tool is really handy for that. It is something that I do use, I don't want to say frequently, but at least regularly enough to where I think it's worth a mention. So the last tool that I wanted to talk about is going to be the healing tool. The healing tool is also a destructive edit. It does work on your base image, but it's a really powerful tool that I do use for various things. I'll kind of show you a few things, but the nice thing about the healing tool is, like, if you haven't cleaned your camera in a while, haven't had it cleaned, you zoom in on something in Photoshop and you're working on adjusting something, and you notice you got that little weird blob on your image. That's dust on your sensor, or dust on your lens. So nice thing about the healing tool is you could just take that right over top of it, gone. You got some, you're doing a scene, looking down a street or something, or looking down a road. You've got like that odd utility pole or street sign that's sitting down there in the distance. Whack! You can take that right out with this as well. So this is really good for cleaning up some of those unintended distractions as well from your image. It's pretty handy for, like I said, the dust delete and getting rid of street signs or people, or you got a person way off in the image. You want to get rid of them, you could do that as well. So I'll show you kind of how that works. We'll use a little example here, same image as before. We'll select our healing tool. So we come in here, let's say we want to get rid of this rock here. I'm just going to say that this rock is distracting. So we just kind of cover it up. Gone. Simple as that. So, and you could do this with any distractions in your scene. So obviously this is a very busy scene, so there's a lot of distractions to remove, but let's say that this rock here kind of stands out, so we want to get rid of that. There you go, all gone. So that's where the healing tool is very, very powerful, because it gives you an option of being able to remove those distractions or just things that don't quite work with the story of your image. It is a tool that I do use regularly, and like I said before, be mindful of using it. It is a destructive edit that does affect your base image. So these are my favorite and most commonly used features. Let me know in the comments below what features you use and why. If they're on this list, I'd like to know how you use them, or if there's a way that you use them differently than I do, or if you disagree with my list and you have a feature that should have been featured, a little redundant, but if you have a tool that you would rather see featured, add that in the comments below as well. I'd love to hear from you, any feedback that you had on that. So As always, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate everybody watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me for more photography tips and tricks. So happy shooting, and I'll see you again next week. Take care.